Good evening and welcome along to the NUFC 360 Transfer Deadline Day special. We're here with you for the next 30 to 45 minutes to talk over NUFC's transfer window this summer and hopefully any new transfers incoming in the next 45 minutes. There are lots of rumours swirling about and I've got three very able guests along to help me for today. We have Max, Joel and Will. How are you, gentlemen?
Good.
All good,
awesome.
All good.
Cool. Let us kick off. What we're going to do, gents, tonight, if anything pops up, occurs during the show, we'll obviously be the first to break it way before Sky Sports or anyone like that. We'll let you know. So please stay along, get your comments in, and we'll read them out and have a bit of chat about it. But we're going to really break down, I think, what our transfer window has been like and how our squad has ended up at the time of recording. So we'll start off with the attackers, and it's a very pointed reason for that, because we want to start about with the most exciting transfer of the window so far, which is obviously Alexander Isak for 63 million pounds. On the way out, we had Dwight Gale very early on in the window, who went off to Pastures New. And we'll start off with you, Max. Max, you are our token Swede. So obviously you've a great affiliation with Isak. What were your feelings on Isak, and obviously feelings on the performance last night? And then where do you feel it leaves Newcastle United's squad up front for the rest of the season, or at least until January?
Yeah, when news broke he was going to sign for us, I was over the moon. It was a really surreal experience because it's probably the biggest talent Sweden has produced since Zlatan Ibrahimovic. So for me to see him in a Newcastle top when he signed was absolutely surreal. And to see him make his debut yesterday at Anfield was also really surreal. I had to pinch myself almost because it was so good. And the way he played also was incredible. And I didn't think that he would do that. I thought maybe he was a bit nervous. It's going to be a tough game. We're maybe not going to have the ball so much. So I was nervous for him, but he did so well. What really impressed me was his physical display. He really showed that he could do it on this level. We know his technique is good, but to show also physically that he could cope with defenders of the Premier League. I mean, he started to play against Virgil van Dijk, who is probably one of the best defenders in the world, and he didn't look out of place. And the 2 goals, I'm going to count them as 2 goals because he didn't know the flag was up.
It was 2 goals.
It was 2 goals, yeah. It was both really good finishes. Technicalities. But it was really 2 good finishes. The second goal was almost better because he dribbled past 2 defenders, sat them down, put the ball in the net. Really good. But my favorite moment from him was when because Joe Gomez was tackling him a bit, doing some cheap stuff off camera, and when he just shoved him off the ball, just tackled him into the stand, that was my favorite moment because that shows that he's here for it and he's capable of playing in the Premier League.
I completely agree. I mean, Isak was phenomenal. Just an almost perfect away debut. Was a complete striker's performance. The comment here from Ryan Kelly, and it's a feeling I've heard. It's one of those divergent opinions on Twitter. Some people feel that the window hasn't been quite enough and we're missing a couple of players. Ryan Kelly here saying the squad is more than strong enough to compete this season, doesn't get the overreaction. That we signed top prospects. In terms of our attackers, Will, obviously, I'm assuming you saw the game last night. How do you feel we're set up for the rest of the season with our front line, including Isak?
I think if you look at compared to last year, we are miles ahead, and it's so easy to forget the position we were in. I'll be honest, I missed the first half yesterday. I caught about the last 30 minutes. Did he look good apart from his goal? Did he look to have made an instant impact?
I think he did. I mean, Joe, I'll come to you as well on this, because I've spoken. But yeah, I think he looked fantastic. Joe, what did you think?
I mean, Isak, he looked extremely impressive. He fit straight in Eddie Howe's high press system. His presses per 90 were ridiculous. He seemed composed on the ball. His link-up play was good. He was drifting into channels right and left where he was receiving the ball, And I think his just all round performance, he looked like so confident for his, obviously being his debut. And I think he's going to suit the squad really well.
He doesn't look like a striker, or at least like my head goes back to Shearer, so I always think, striker needs to be really well built and strong and muscle off players, and that's not all strikers, but he's quite lanky. He's obviously 6'3", he's tall, he's really strong, and Max alluded to it, I'm really impressed how strong he was. Joe Gomez I don't particularly rate, but he is strong. He was holding him off really well. Same for Van Dijk. He was playing balls into the channels and getting into the channels themselves. But it is that running he was able to do. As Joel said, he fits in sort of seamlessly. And for someone that didn't know he was playing until maybe an hour or two before kickoff, it makes it really, really impressive. All the more impressive. Do you miss anybody, or do you feel we'll regret letting anyone go? I mean, I'm using maybe Dwight Gale as an example. Maybe do you think we'll regret letting Dwight Gale go, or maybe not signing another forward this window?
I don't think so, because even if you remember back to January when we had him and we had no other striker, he still wasn't even getting a sniff then.
That's
I
true.
don't know if that was on injuries or whatever, but it's hard to see we're missing him. I think it'll just come down to injuries. I think we'll probably miss. I think the only opportunity we could have possibly missed in this window is signing like a wide forward. I think we lose St. Maximin.
Pedro, maybe Pedro, perhaps.
Yeah, I just feel like that could be the only thing that could come to bite with. But in terms of Dwight Gale, absolutely not. No. How's he getting on at Stoke?
I don't know. He's got the Sunderland manager now, so he's probably not going to be great. Or the ex-Sunderland manager. Is it Stoke? Let's check. Yeah, it is Stoke. It is Stoke. He's 32 as well. He's getting on a wee bit. So I don't know.
It used to be a cheat code in the Championship, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a big thing that they made about this window is also the fact that, look, we all know what Ashley did to the club, but the amount of dead weight we were left with in terms of the wage bill and the structure, that's been a massive job to shift all that, and it won't be just one window or even two. It will take a wee while to completely sort of rebuild the club in that respect. And you look at the people that we've lost, and I'll come into them more later on. Gail, Clark, even like Jeff Hendrick or even Isaac Hayden, they're on big money for that caliber of player that they are. They were the players that were going to leave. Gail's a perfect example, was going to leave, so we'll give him a new contract. Like last year, because why spend money on a proper player or a different player? We'll just give him a new contract and bump the wages up. So yeah, it's tricky. Joel, do you see anyone else coming in? Black Mamba said basically he can't see anyone else coming in today, possibly unless lovely Dan Ashworth on the phone or working on something at the moment, which he may well be. Do you think in terms of attackers, we'll see anyone else come in today?
I mean, basing this off the sort of breaking-ish news with Chelsea going for Zakaria, that could possibly open up the position to get Conor Gallagher from Chelsea. He can play right wing, centre mid. He can be a central attacking midfielder. But I feel like we've sort of flirted with him sort of the start of the window, with there's been interest from other clubs. I think Palace had a 27 million bid turned down. But I think a loan deal with an option to buy would be really, really good if we could get him in. Unfortunately, I can't really see Pulisic come in. They haven't got a replacement lined up. So yeah, and then Ashby, obviously, he looks like a sort of done deal as well. But in terms of attackers, possibly a late move for Conor Gallagher.
I think, Max, you got your dream attacker in Isak, and arguably a lot of people would say that as well. And he was linked very early on in the window, and then, well, it was sort of dismissed out of hand as being too expensive. So clearly there was a bit of readjustment there, possibly in relation to Wilson's injury. We don't quite know. If we have, I'm thinking of the attackers here, all of our attackers fit, which is a very relevant question considering the 6 first-team players we had out last night. So we have all our attackers fit. So you've Wilson, you've got Isak, you've got, let's say, Almiron, ASM, and maybe Elliot Anderson, possibly, if he's in that conversation. What ones would you like to see Howe play? Would you like to see Wilson and Isak? Would you like to see him on his own? What would be your ideal for a front three, front two, front four? Max?
Well, the ideal one would be Maximin, Wilson, and Isak. But I don't see him playing as a right-sided forward. But I'm not the football coach, so I probably don't see the smartness behind that. For me, out and out striker, but he doesn't play like one, which we saw today. He can drift out wide and do something on the wings. He has the technical ability to do a one or two players. So definitely for me it would be Wilson, Isak, and Saint-Maximin, because that's just an exciting attacking three. Like, it got pace, technical ability. We got a good finisher in Wilson and Isak. Saint-Maximin, as we saw against Wolves, can pull it out of the hat. So for me, that would be the front three for us to play.
Will, would yours be any different to that if you could choose your front three?
I don't know. It's because it's like, does he fit that position there? Whereas Miggy's kind of been molded into it. If it like it on paper, it looks great, but would I be right in saying he'd be more likely as a left-sided forward?
I think he's right or left. I think he'd do both, to be honest. Was he right-footed?
The thing is, he's like double. I don't know how you say it in English, but it's double-footed. He can play with his left and right is quite equally as good, so it's not that big of an issue. But his preferred foot is right.
It's not a bad problem to have. It's just if we're shoehorning him in, and if it fits, I'd probably at the minute. I mean, bearing in mind I missed the majority of yesterday's game, I'd probably still go Miggy, Wilson, Saint-Maximin, and then you've got you wait a couple of weeks and then bring Isak in the number 9.
Give it watch one game, you'll change your mind. I guarantee you that. I guarantee you, he's absolutely mint. He is brilliant. Yeah. But the only problem I have is, and Max has sort of brought it into there, is, I mean, where do you play him? Do you drop Wilson? I am a callous bugger, and I love Wilson, but Isak was so good last night. I think if he kept playing like that, Wilson won't get back in that team. You playing up front, because we know how he does that. How he plays you. If you could play him well, he doesn't drop you.
But his numbers last season, I know it's not everything. They weren't. They didn't look great. How come it's come in? It's one Liverpool game, world beater.
Well, I think maybe Sociedad don't create maybe as many chances as we possibly do. We didn't create a whole heap. He did take the one or two that he did. He was very. He was on top of his game. Really, he took his chances and took them very well. But I think, just having listened to a lot about him from the fans of the previous clubs, Dortmund and some of the Swedish clubs, and certainly Sociedad, basically they've been expecting this for a while. You also have to remember he's 22, and what I mean by that is the stat that went around that made me very excited when he signed was he scored, I think it was something like 35 goals or 40 goals, maybe something like that, in the last 2 years. And outside of, he's the third top scorer for his age range, only beaten by Mbappe and Haaland. Which, if you're being talked in that same sort of conversation, that gives you an idea where that 65 million came from. So yeah, I think it'll be brilliant. But against, where do you play him? Even the idea of playing two strikers, which for so long has been sort of not the done thing, having Wilson and him on the pitch is scary in terms of the ability to finish. Like, you just have to throw the ball in the box, and there's going to be goals. Just we'll move on slightly. We've got a good bit to get through here this evening. Just a bit of breaking news as we are talking, and Maddie Roundtree had put this into the chat, so thank you, Maddie. Dennis Zakaria is having a medical ahead of a move to Chelsea, which obviously for us could free up Conor Gallagher. Very exciting. Don't know if that'll be a loan, probably a loan, I imagine, or maybe they are. I know that they're agreed to buy, hopefully. Probably, yeah. Good player. I would like to see him. Be interesting to see what he could do. We'll come to him a little bit more when we get the midfielders. Joe, we're going to come to you next. Defenders wise, so our defence was excellent towards the end of last season. It really was very, very good. And a lot of that was down to some of the business that was done through Dan Byrne and obviously Matty Targett, who we had on loan. We made that permanent at 13 million. And then we obviously signed our January target, Sven Botman, for 33 million pounds, or 35, million pounds. An absolute bargain, in my opinion. We lost Kieran Clark. Tragically, he's not dead. He just we went a different club. So he went to a different club. So yeah, I think that's an improvement, personally, in my opinion. So what do you think, Joel, in terms of defender business? Were you happy? Are you pleased? Would you wanted more? What are your thoughts?
Very happy overall. We knew we needed, obviously, a new left back and a new centre back, and we were chasing Botman since January. We finally got him. He doesn't look out of place at all. Hasn't put a foot wrong. think he's pretty much won every single aerial duel he's went for already. He's calm on the ball, he's composed, he's a really good ball playing defender, and he adds this sort of calmness to the defense as well, which allows you to build play up through your midfielders and progress the ball forward. I think it was a pass he'd done to Joe Linton, it might have been in a cup game, when he broke the entire opposition's midfield with one pass, and it was just brilliant. So in terms of Botman, yeah, looks brilliant, and Target, he never puts a foot wrong again. Solid defender. Possibly could work on getting forward a bit more as a sort of wing back role, but defensively wise, again, very, very good. And it's overall, it's a big improvement. I mean, we kept Liverpool at bay for pretty much all of last game. Really unlucky, obviously, what happened to that. I won't touch on that yet, because I'm assuming a few heads. But yeah, no, big improvement in the defense.
Yeah, it still hurts me a bit. So a lot of people in the chat, thank you very much, folks, going on about Dennis Zakari having that medical. Ryan Kelly saying Gallagher, very underrated, 8 goals last season. That's really good. Didn't even realise that. I knew he was good for a pass. I didn't know he scored quite as many from centre midfield, so that will be very nice. In terms of the defenders, are you... how do you feel about the business we've done? You're thinking specifically about, Sven Botman and how he settled in well, and how Matt Targett's continued to settle in. Would you have wanted any more from this window, or are you happy enough moving forward?
Absolutely not. I think it's probably, when you look at the squad, it's the area where we've really got a bit of depth now. Even with that Kraft injury, Manquillo's not the worst backup in the world. We bring this Ashby guy in. It looks, you've got a bit of trust in it for the first time in quite a few years. There's a really, really solid back four. And even that's, you're rotating Dan Burn or Botman in and out of it. I think we're in a really good spot.
Do you think, Will, that, and I'll be honest, I know nothing about Ashby. I've looked at a lot of West Ham fans on Twitter who seem annoyed or upset that he's leaving, which can only be good, because, that sounds like a good thing. Do you think that's the kind of signing that we're bringing in with a view to eventually replacing Trippier, or do you think it's just cover because he's young? I don't think he's to replace Kraft. What do you think?
Do you not think it's purely just because of Kraft's injury, of just going
Could be
a little bit of extra? I mean, mate, I've watched 2 minutes on YouTube of some under 21 games.
More than me.
Rapid. He looks rapid, but mate, I no doubt. But surely, if you just think Kraft out for that long, maybe a bit of extra cover. Honestly, who knows? Not me. Yeah.
It sounds, the only reason it's a very Ashworth thing we were discussing beforehand. It's a very Ashworth type signing where I could see he's done it in Brighton a lot, where he'll sign some wee nipper for £1 million or £2 million, and a season later he's selling him for 50 million. He's just taking him into the system, building into that system. And that's actually, this is a slight aside. I don't want to get into the Liverpool match for obvious reasons. But it's relevant because it's probably the first time I've seen us make so many changes, forced changes, but keep the exact same rhythm, tempo, press, and style. And it was great. It was just good that we could swap out players for worse or subpar players and still have that same thing. So if Ashby can come in and can be built up by Howe and the team, it could be a really interesting sign. And to be fair, all of the news seems to be, unless I'm seeing something different, really positive. I'm just getting news. Zakara deal is done, so he's gone to Chelsea. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we might see something. Coming. That's Joel. You said that, so that's right. In the next coming while. Max, just to round out the defenders, is there anyone you would have liked to see us go for if we take Ashby as, let's say, nearly done, or are you very happy with that, including the depth? Your dear Kraft was injured, your countryman was injured the other week. So in terms of the depth, are you happy enough with that? If we are going to go on these cup runs that Eddie Howe has promised, how do you feel about the defence?
Yeah, well, I think we have good coverage on every position. We have 2 left backs, Lewis and Target. We've got Dummett, who can play at centre back and left back. Got Lascelles, Botman, Burn, Schär, Trippier. And as Will said, I think Manquillo is a very capable right back, and he can also play at left back, as we saw against Leeds last season and some other games. So I think it's really good. The only thing I would say is I still think we should probably get, well, maybe not this summer, but in the future, get a quicker center back with a good passing foot, because our defense is quite slow, and that will be a problem, I think, someday. But as of now, really good depth. I'm really happy. Even you saw yesterday that even Lascelles could go into that back four and do a good job. I didn't think he did. He didn't do bad. He wasn't great, but he was actually quite good, and he didn't look out of place. So for me, the defense is probably our strongest line of the team. So it's good. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point about Lascelles. And just last night, he was surprisingly good. I'm quite a big critic of Lascelles in that I don't think he should be playing for us. I don't think he's good enough anymore. But
No.
he was good. He was all right. He was all right. He played well. He didn't put a foot wrong. Just a note, Fabrizio Romano has said that obviously the card deal is done. That obviously is not 100% confirmed by the club, but we're taking that as gospel, even though he all sold us down the river when he told us João Pedro was coming to Newcastle, which burnt us all. So we'll move on to the goalkeepers. Obviously, very relevant considering today's news with Martin Dubravka going off on loan to Manchester United with a potential fee, if they make it permanent, of about £6 million. Well, we've signed Nick Pope for £10 million. We lost Dubravka today, and then previously we lost Freddie Woodman, leaving us with Nick Pope and Carl Darlow. What are your thoughts on the window in terms of our goalkeepers?
I think it's probably the worst deal for us in this window. I thought the Pope signing I was happy with Dubravka. I thought the Pope signing was purely just to provide a bit of competition for the number one spot. And then with Dubravka leaving now, I think the Pope deal, it just doesn't look quite as good, especially with how they treated us with the Lingard stuff last year. It feels like a really solid deal for United of just chuck them a great keeper on loan. £6 million's out for him, really. It's a shame, but I'm sure there's more behind it than meets the eye.
Yeah, and with Mark Gillespie as well, of course, he's our third choice and doesn't get on very much. And hopefully he won't sound very callous. I just mean hope he's not injuries to so many players. I think the one thing I'd say about Dubravka is, and I loved Dubravka. I used to love him. He's dead to me now. But he was such a good keeper. I remember his home debut, ironically enough, against Manchester United. You could hear him barking orders to a centre back, and we'd had Carl Darlow, who's a good shot stopper, but he's quite timid, quite quiet. He wanted a big imposing presence, and he was that. He's a good shot stopper as well. He's not good with his feet, and the way Ten Hag plays, I don't really see the logic behind this. He obviously thinks he can. Well, I don't know. Maybe you disagree, Jet. And I don't think he's great with his feet. Ten Hag, he wants to play. You hear him shouting at De Gea, "Don't kill it long, pass it along the deck." I don't think Dubravka can do that. I think Nick Pope can do that. Don't think Dubravka can do that. So I don't really understand this sign, nor do I understand Dubravka's logic in, I can't oust Nick Pope. I'll definitely be able to oust De Gea. I think Nick Pope's class. I'm not saying I don't know if he's better than De Gea or not, but I don't think it's a given either way. So he's definitely confident. I'll give him that. Max, what's your feelings on the goalkeeper situation?
It was tough to see Dubravka leave. I really like him. He's done some amazing saves for us this couple of seasons. He's really kept us up in the Premier League, in my opinion. He's saved us so many points. For me, I think it's just for him to put on his career resume. You play for Manchester United. It's still one of the biggest clubs in the world. Maybe he won't play many games, but he will still be a part of the club. For him at 33, this is probably his last opportunity to get play position like that. Obviously, we as fans would have wanted him to stay because it was almost a bit like a cult hero for us. It was becoming to be almost. So it's tough to see him go, but all the best to him, honestly. I think Nick Pope is a good keeper. We saw it yesterday, the sweeper keeper role he has when he ran out and headed a ball into the stands when it was out of nowhere he came flying. And I don't think we would see Dubravka ever do that sort of thing.
He headed a ball that was 1 foot off the ground. It wasn't like he came up and headed it. He could have kicked it. He just dived on the ground. He did who did that for Manchester United? I can't remember, but yeah, like it was brilliant. That super keeper, and that's what Howe's asked him to do, and that's pretty much why he sort of binned him. I mean, Joel, are you disappointed in Dubravka for not fighting for his place, or do you think he's well within his rights just to go, no, I'm too old, I'm not going to do it? What do you think?
I mean, from his perspective, I think, we've touched about this on the podcast on Tuesday, as did. From his perspective, he's going to go to Man United. He's probably going to be retiring soon. He'll be on the same money, if not a bit more, if they do decide to buy him. I don't think he'll compete with De Gea at all. I think he'll make the odd cup appearance or stand in for De Gea when he's injured. So from his perspective, like, even though it's annoying from us, you kind of just saw Nick Pope come in, watch him do very well and go. I can't really knock him. Like, he's left, it'll be his last season. He's going to Man United, a big club. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a comment there from Ryan Kelly: 6 million if we get it for a 34-year-old keeper with a history of injuries is terrible. Isn't terrible business if the option is taken up. That's a good point. Actually, he does get injured. Good bit actually, and actually, there's an argument to be made that he was very, very good when he first joined, and then had quite a bad injury, and maybe wasn't quite the same. There was definitely arguments or discussions last year about have not been just quite the same player when he came back. But no, I don't begrudge him the move at all. I just think I'm a bit disappointed, I suppose, that he didn't have a crack at it. I expect him to do it to January. I expected Pope to start and Pope to overtake him, but I thought he'd have a crack at it for 6 months, 3, 4, 5 months, and see if he could do it, and then realize, no, we'll go somewhere else. But you say the opportunity doesn't come across very often for that, that sort of thing, to go to a club like that. So good luck to him. Hope he plays against us. Hope stick 5 past him, but we will see. We'll move on, gents, to the midfielders then. And it's, I suppose, there's not been too much movement on this. Well, certainly in incomings, it's more outgoings, and then I suppose reflecting on where we are as a club with our midfielders. So, as was said earlier, there's been a lot of deadwood to shift at this club, and a lot of players that maybe needed to move on for a lot of reasons. We had quite a few movements. So Jeff Hendrick moved on very, very early on in the summer to Reading. Now, he's on loan, but you'd probably like to think that'll be made permanent. I don't think we'll be itching to get him back, certainly. When you think technically Jeff Hendrick is at the same midfield at the same club as Bruno Guimaraes, it's a bit weird. It's a bit strange. Isaac Hayden, he moved to Norwich, and they might come up next year, so he's also on loan as well. These are the reason these are loans, because these players are on massive wages. There's huge wages, and championship clubs either can't afford or won't pay them. They're getting a decent quality, so running down those contracts. We're looking potentially at Conor Gallagher, and this apparent news about Zakaria going to Chelsea may free him up. Is he the type of player you would like to see come into our midfield for Newcastle, or do you think that we're fine?
Absolutely. I think we could probably do with another 8 in there. I think if you look at Joe Linton gets an injury or we lose Willock, it suddenly starts to look very thin. If we can do it, I think it's a lot to do with a few hours to go. I think it would be a great signing. Absolutely.
Did you have any, because we haven't signed anybody for centre mid, so did you have any sort of dream signings, any signs you thought that's who I'd like at the start of the window that just haven't
I think this window can be considered a 10 out of 10 purely because we bid for Maddison and nobody laughed at it.
Yeah.
Right?
Good point.
The Paqueta one hurt, right? But wait, we're a serious club now, right? We actually went, 50 million. People went, yeah, that kind of makes sense. I'll take that. Look, that's enough for me at the minute. And the Paqueta one hurts just because it was so romantic and it just seemed to fit. And it's going to hurt watching him in a West Ham top, especially when he was in Bruno's garden in one of ours. Paqueta, Maddison would have been great, adding a little bit of quality. But I know it's been said a million times, but if you look at where we were a year ago, like we're talking about Deadwood, like Hendrick, like I don't want to call Hayden Deadwood because of what he put into the club, but they were all starting this time last year. Mm-hmm. I think, maybe there was some opportunities, but we've still come on leaps and bounds.
It's been said before by many people, and we said it in the podcast before. It's a different club. It's a different club. It's a different set of supporters. It's a different lifetime completely. It's unrecognizable. And, I always forget how little time has passed, and even how little time Eddie Howe's been in charge and his team's been in charge, 9 months or something. It's madness to think what he and his team have done to the club in that space of time. And yes, the fans, Rebel fans, will throw out 200 million net spend, blah 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 blah. It's net spend because we can't shift any of the rest of the players because they're not very good. Like, if they were halfway decent, we'd be able to do something with that, but we can't. The Buchanan thing is an excellent point, and I actually sort of forgot about him. As soon as he signed for West Ham, I was like, right, that's obviously done, put it to bed. But that was a big saga in the summer, and there was an awful lot of chat about him. It's also a really strange one. His stats, I know stats aren't everything, were wacky. They were really good for a team like Lyon, arguably better than Bruno's in terms when he played for Lyon. And I don't really understand why West Ham were seemingly the only club in for him. It really is odd that there's nobody else. It's a bit strange. Your point about depth is also a very good one, and yeah, I think my worry is it comes back to bite us at some point, as you say. We've already seen what an injury to Bruno can do, and we've played well, but we've definitely been lacking when Bruno's not been playing. I don't want to think what it would be like if we lost Bruno and Joe Linton in the same sort of period of time. You could potentially be looking at a midfield of like Longstaff, Willock, and Shelby's already injured until after the World Cup and Christmas, so it's not great. So a more body would certainly be better. Max, what's your feeling on the midfields that we have at the moment? Would you have wanted anybody else, or are you content?
No, it's tough because if Shelby had been fit right now, it would have been not a completely different situation, but at least a better one. Because yesterday when I looked at the bench, because I saw like Joe Linton and Joe Willock were so tired, or at least Joe Willock I saw was really tired. Shaw Longstaff also really tired. And I was looking at the bench, but who can we sub in on the midfield? And I was like, we don't have any midfielders on the bench. We only have defenders and wingers and goalkeepers. And that was a worry and then I started thinking we really need to get someone in, right? Because Shelby's out for a few months and Bruno is gone for a few games. And if we get an injury to Willock or Joe Linton, that's really bad, because then we need to play like maybe Almiron in an 8 position.
Would you put Anderson in an 8?
That's
Is
what
he
I was
more
thinking
like
as well. Yeah,
maybe that as well.
That could be
good.
A blessing in disguise.
Could be good.
Oh yeah,
he looked really positive when he came on. The few touches
he was good again, wasn't he? He was very good again. That's twice now that he's played really well. He was good at Wolves and he was good against Liverpool as well. No, that's a really good point, Max. I mean, Ryan Kelly makes a point about that depth and losing their players. Saying it's the same for all the clubs outside of the top 6. If you take away their best 2 or 3 players, they're going to struggle. And that's completely right. It is true. We took away our top 3 players, arguably top 5. If you take maybe Botman and thing out of the squad or the starting lineup last night, it will have an effect. Joel, is there anyone you think from the midfielders that are away? I'm changing the question just slightly. That would fit in. So Matty Longstaff went out on loan today. Do you think he has a future at the club? Players like him, Hayden, Hendrick. Are you under just the assumption that they're all just going to go as soon as their loans end? They're going to stay at their clubs or off to go somewhere else? Or do you think any of them have a future at the club?
Straight answer, no, probably not. I know.
Okay,
Matty and Sean, like obviously local lads come through the academy, and I say this every podcast, and I do deliberately bring it up. Yeah, like just both of them aren't good enough. Like they're really not. Like people do need to realize this. I don't think any of them have a future at the club. Hayden, I actually was a great player. I thought he was a great defensive midfielder. Yeah, I can't see him back though again. Like, yeah, fair play, crack on in the Championship. It is the weakest. So, like when you look at squad depth, midfield is currently the weakest sort of position. I'd love to see in January go for a defensive midfielder. We're linked with Bakayoko, who didn't really show much at Chelsea, but again, someone like him would do a job there. With obviously Shelby missing, and any injury would cause an issue. But yeah, in terms of the 3 players that have went away, no, I don't think that they have a future at the club now.
Okay. Well, we've covered most of the squad there, all squad there, and at the moment, no breaking news at the moment. Ashby seems to be, if it's happening in the background, but with no confirmation either way. Tielemans starts for Leicester this evening. He's in the squad. probably puts to bed interest in him. I think it was a wee bit of a pipe dream, to be honest, but that would have been absolutely lovely. My question for you then, gentlemen, and I'll come to you first, Will, is more about considering the squad that we now have finished with. Where do you think Newcastle United will finish this season?
Oh, it depends. It depends on injuries, doesn't it? I think our first 11, we're in a really, really good spot. But if you say, as we've been saying, you lose Joe Linton, you lose Bruno for any extended period of time, at least that's not a ticking time bomb with Wilson anymore because we've got back. I'll go slightly negative and say 9th.
Ooh, 9th. Is that European? No, not European football. Just missing out in the European places. Yeah.
Just think it's all so good and rosy, and it's been lovely for since October. Well, since more how got them going. Just feels like maybe there's a few bumps in the road, but I'll say 9th, and I would take it. It's not the end.
Yeah, you've been burned by Ashley. See, it's that negativity over 12 years. It cannot be this good. Something's going wrong.
Right.
It has to be. It's gonna be. No, don't disagree necessarily. You go, Tom Proudfoot, 9th in the cup run. There you go. Yeah, that caveat in. I would snap your hands off for that right now. 9th, and I'd say cup run. I'm talking a final, maybe a final. Like get to even League Cup. Take that. That would be incredible. A final and 9th would be just lovely. Max, what about you?
Oh, difficult. I would say probably if we can keep our guys fit. 8th, I think. But I'm a bit torn because you kind of measure it of this for 5 first games, 4 first games, 5. And we played 2 of the best teams. We played Wolves and Brighton, who are quite good defensively, and we played Nottingham, who's newly promoted and not at St James's Park, and we were that was the only game I felt like, because the City and Liverpool games are so special because it's a whole different thing. Everything around it's so different. The hype is so different. But the Wolves and Brighton game, I didn't think we were particularly good in any of them. We had moments of good play. And that's why the Crystal Palace game now this weekend and the games to come now against Bournemouth, Fulham, and West Ham they're really these are kind of defining of how good we are, depending also on which players are available. But to see these games would be probably easier because then you can measure how good we actually are. Because the City and Liverpool games, they only come once a month or something like that. So, but I would say. Yeah, 8th. I'm hoping for 8th.
Black Mamba, 8th to 10th, depending on injuries, form, other team, and Ryan Kelly. A good phrase here: a season of stability. So that idea, which we've all got used to, really quickly, of or not getting relegated. Like if you said it to me last year, you wouldn't even think about relegation. It wouldn't even be in your head. I would be like, what are you talking about? What's going to happen? Because that's it. We're all fuming about last night still because we didn't beat the people who came second. Like this team with 6 injuries and we're all absolutely raging. So that's a really good point. That idea of having a stable team and top 10, that'd be pretty good. Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with the sort of general consensus of between 10th and 7th, and that will depend on the injuries, the magnitude, if we get any big ones, how long they're out for. But yeah, I don't see this will not finish outside the top 10, I don't think. And I'll go for Isak to score 11 goals.
11? Hey, don't play that. I think I'll beat that. Well, it should have had 2 last night. 1 at least. Okay, I have another tricky one for you, and it's relevant to what we've touched upon this as we went. And we're sort of thinking about that talk about injuries and things like that. We have some injuries at the moment, but none of them are, apart from Shelvey, and I don't think he's in the starting 11, which is the question. None of them are long term. Our starting 11, that might be different for all of your own personal starting 11. Would we beat any team in the Premier League at home at the moment now? So starting 11, whoever that is. So at home, would we beat anybody? I know we played City, but I'm thinking with Isak now coming into the team, with everyone fully fit, do we beat absolutely anybody?
What, like 100% of the time they're coming up with
Well,
St.
no,
James's
I mean, in a one-on-one game,
Can
are we
we?
capable of doing it?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't even a conversation. You think about City and Liverpool, both of those teams going in, you're like, well, if we don't get smashed, it's great. That was like the level. Whereas now we're going, we should have won against Liverpool. And we should, I'm not saying we definitely should have, but that is an argument you can make. And we should have won against City. That's definitely an argument you can make. There's maybe luck involved on both sides there. So with added players, with Isak, with players coming back, is there an argument to say that we can beat anybody? I'm using home as an example because that's been our fortress, but it doesn't have to be home. So what do you think? Is that possible, Will? Do you think our first team is that strong?
100%. I think if there's anything we've learned from these 5 games, while we might not be that high up the table, we've played really well and really taken it to teams like City and Liverpool. I'd say absolutely onward day, places bouncing, City and Liverpool come and they're not fully on it. They're at risk these days, which is mental because we just roll over usually.
Yeah, we do. We definitely do. And we haven't been. Again, that's down to Eddie as well. Max, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree. We can beat any team with all the fans in the stadium. I think we can take on any team. We bring the European teams over. We can take them on as well. Barcelona, Real Madrid, we take them as well. We can take anybody right now.
Come on.
There you go. Ryan Kelly said the same. Crowd behind us, we can beat anyone on our day. The press we have now is intense. Even had City rattled. We did indeed. And, opposition fans are starting to hate us. And that's great because we really wanted to hate us because it's so much worse when they feel sorry for us. And they don't anymore. They actively dislike us. Some of that's because they take over. Some of it's not because we're actually a good team. And that's great. So we can get them at home and absolutely rattle them. Joel, what about you then? What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm just going to leave it on. I cannot wait until we beat Liverpool at home.
Oh, Jesus.
Bring it on. Absolutely bring it on.
Clip that and send it to him.
Clip it. Send it. Keep the good times rolling. Ryan Kelly, I think we'll cause a few upsets this season. Be the top 6 team away from home too. Yeah, I can see that. I'll tell you one right now. Man United. A friend of mine sent me a text, Man United fan, saying, I just got tickets to go over to watch. He lives in Ireland, like me. I got tickets to watch the Manchester United match home to Newcastle. And my reaction was, and he was like, well, you probably lose. Like, we'll give you a really good game. Like, go watch them at home to, like, I don't know, pick a rubbish team in the bottom half of the Premier League. But that, we'll give you a game, lad. Like, we really will. It'll be difficult. Anyway, gents, we have ran near the end of our time. Unfortunately, there's been no signings in the 45 minutes we've been on.
What a shock.
We didn't think there would be, but we'll chance our arm anyway. So possibly we might see Conor Gallagher rock up at St James's between now and the close of the window at 11. Is it 11? Yeah. And possibly Harrison Ashby may be on his way as well. But it's been a great window, and certainly if you'd said to me we'd get our first, our long-term target of Botman in centre back, we've already got Bruno, our main target in centre midfield, and I've got one of our main targets in Isak. And Pope's pretty good as well. That spine is a pretty good spine as well. I'm inclined to agree with all of you in saying that, I think we can beat anybody. I really do. It will require luck. It will require injuries staying away. It will require things going right for us. But I think we can. Gentlemen, thank you so much for all of the comments and in your discussion there. Really, really interesting and cheered me up immensely after last night. So I really do appreciate it. Thanks very much for your comments, everybody. That was really, really brilliant. Please do follow and like the video, please. It helps us grow. We're trying to reach as many Newcastle United fans as we can. Have a lovely rest of your transfer deadline day, gentlemen. Thank you so much again, everyone, for watching. Thank you as well.